TKO and Endeavor this morning as we're recording had a little press conference going on where they were asked some questions. And one question that has seemed to be the talk of the day is that they are open to essentially whoever wants to purchase Monday Night Raw's broadcast rights to moving Monday Night Raw essentially off of Monday nights. Brandon, your first thoughts on just that news, that idea in general?
So my initial reaction is no, do not do that. I think Monday nights are a staple. Obviously, you have Monday Night Football. We get that. But Monday nights are a staple for wrestling fans for what, the last 30 years? Like, to me, as long as I've been a wrestling fan, my earliest memories of watching a wrestling product was 1997. So what's that, 26 years? And that's what I know. Like, to me, I don't think it's a good idea to change things that wrestling fans already know. It's like, to me, it's like, as a wrestling fan, death, taxes, WWE is going to put a show on Monday nights. Like, I don't think you can change that. Like, I get, other shows like SmackDown have moved over the years, NXT's moved around, AEW moves around. To me, that's I call that that's the flagship show. Like, that's the show that I became a fan of wrestling because of. So I can't justify them going to another night. Like, I get it for 18 weeks out of the year. Okay, they're going against Monday Night Football. But I know a lot of people that are wrestling fans that don't really care about football as much. Like, I'll use you for an example. The only time I think you're going to watch Monday Night Football over wrestling is if the New York Giants, who are your favorite team, are on. It's the same thing for me. If the Dallas Cowboys, which obviously it's been well documented, I not only love the team, I cover the team, as one of my many hustles. And if they're on Monday nights, which they will be next week, as a matter of fact, I will be watching that. But most other nights, I will watch wrestling. I will watch Monday Night Raw. I'll keep an eye on what's going on because, I am a football fan also. But the only time I'm watching Monday Night Raw or watching Monday Night Football over Raw is when my team is playing, which they only play maybe once or twice, I think once this year. So for me, I think you don't want to move it too much. Like, I feel like you're playing with fire because the audience already knows what you're already doing. So why change something that's already established when, some people would consider it a potential war, the WWE AEW war. AEW gets moved around a lot, and that can affect their ratings. So if Tony Khan wanted to, play that card, he could say, well, we're not established on this night like WWE NXT has been. They could use that as well. So for me, you keep it on Monday nights, you leave it alone, and then you have your NXT on Tuesdays the way they've been doing it, and then Friday Night SmackDown the way it is. And honestly, the pay-per-view model that they do majority of the year except for the big shows, I like the Saturday night model. I know you're not as big of a fan of it maybe as I am, but I like the Saturday night model because, especially in the wintertime, cool, all right, what am I doing on a Saturday night? Okay, if I'm not going anywhere, if I'm going to be inside somewhere, cool, there's a pay-per-view on. I get during the summer, maybe a Sunday night, whatever, but I like that model.
Bring up a good point there, right? You like Saturday night pay-per-views, and that's the question I was going to pose to you, right? You talk about the staple, what wrestling fans are used to. Wrestling fans are used to Sunday night pay-per-views. WWE moves their pay-per-views to Saturday. No harm, no foul. We got used to it. I mean, obviously, you talked about SmackDown moving around over the years, but WrestleMania was a staple on a Sunday night. And I mean, it still is on Sunday night as part of the two-night thing, so it hasn't moved Sunday. But Royal Rumble, right? Royal Rumble.
Here's the difference, though.
Are now on Saturday nights.
Here's the difference, though, between that Saturday night model for pay-per-views for WWE versus the Sunday night models that we're accustomed to. That was once a month. This is every single week. That's where I think it's the difference to me because you get 52 weeks a year guaranteed on Monday nights. Obviously for a while it was 9 to 11, but now it's 8 to 11. But you're guaranteed Eastern time. You're guaranteed to have Monday Night Raw every single week. They don't take Monday nights off like the NFL does or the NBA or any other sports. It's guaranteed. So for me, the difference is on a Saturday night pay-per-view versus a Sunday night pay-per-view, it makes no difference to me because you're getting the maximum of 12 shows a year. So for me, that doesn't concern me as much. And here's the thing, WWE is obviously, the pay-per-view model's changed a lot over the years anyways, because back in the day, yes, it was on Sunday nights, but you also had to pay 40, 50, 60 bucks for the show. Now they don't even call it pay-per-view in WWE. They call it premium live events, which I will still call pay-per-views. I'm born with that because I'm used to that. It's like being a Syracuse person and calling the Destiny Mall, and I call it Carousel. Like that's what I'm used to. But
also too, everyone else uses pay-per-views. WWE only uses it. So when you see premium live events, no one knows what that means outside of WWE.
But the point is,
WWE is the only one who uses that.
Stream. You pay for a streaming service. You're paying for Peacock, which I believe if you buy it for the year, I might be off a little bit on my numbers, but I think I bought Peacock for like $100 or $120 for the year, which back in the day, that's what, 2 pay-per-views back in the day, or 3 shows. So for me, like the model's changed so much there that people are used to that change.
That's the thing. The model is changing all the time, and that's why I can't really defend what you're saying there with the whole people are accustomed to things, because that is the thing. The model is changing all the time. Whether Monday Night Raw is even on traditional cable in the future, is yet to be seen. Obviously, whoever buys the broadcast rights, who knows? Maybe it's Amazon Prime, maybe it's Peacock.
So even if they're on Prime or any of these other streaming services, I still think they would air it like they would like anything else, like on a Hulu live TV kind of situation.
Well, yes, it would air live for sure.
Mondays from 8 to 11.
I'm just saying, we were used to Monday Night Raw obviously being 9 to 11 at one point and being a 2-hour show. Things change, especially not just things that always change, but specifically recently, the whole model of everything in the past is being thrown right out the window, right? We see that now with Thursday Night Football. And I think the whole change, we're used to it, that kind of thing. I don't think that is what's going to keep Raw on Monday nights, just because why not? We've always done it that way. That's not how any business works.
What about Saturday Night Live? Saturday Night Live is guaranteed. Saturday, like obviously during the writer's strike, it's different. Yes. But it's guaranteed. Saturday nights, you get. I'm not an SNL fan, so I don't. So people can correct me on this. But
they have a season. They take summers off and stuff.
But like generally, okay, Saturday Night Live is going to be on Saturday nights. Monday Night Raw is going to be on Monday nights. To me, like even if you change it to a streaming service like a Sling TV or any of these type of services,
well, it can stay on Monday. Yes, I'm not saying that if Amazon buys it, it has to leave Mondays. It clearly can be on Monday. It can clearly be live. It's their choice. But I guess my saying is, whoever buys the broadcast rights, moving it off of Monday nights is not going to be, because they're not going to keep it on Monday nights just because the reason is we've always done it that way. They'll have to have actual legitimate reasons to keep it on Monday nights. And I think there's probably a few reasons. One, I'm going to mention, we talk about the NFL, right? Well, the NFL, and this is what I'm kind of a little bit annoyed with, but everybody seems to run from the NFL, and the NFL doesn't run from anybody, and they just put games on when they feel like it. So if you move your product to Wednesday nights, what's not saying in 2 or 3 years, Wednesday nights is now the new night of NFL football? The NFL is just going to be where it's going to be. You can't run from the NFL because the NFL is going to be where they're going to be. They're going to be on Tuesdays. They're going to be on Saturdays. They're going to go where they go. So you can't move somewhere and then the NFL stays off of it.
You made my point, because Monday Night Football has been around as long as I can remember. I don't know the exact date of Monday Night Football, obviously, off the top of my head.
I think the 70s. Yeah,
it's been a long time. Like, I wasn't alive for it. I know it was before me, obviously. But, like, WWE has consistently for the last 30 years plus, that's what they do. Like, it's Monday nights. Like, they don't care if Monday Night Football is on. That's the thing. That's why, and you just kind of made my point for me, because they don't care about Monday Night Football. They're doing their own thing. So, like, you made my point because, okay, the NFL, like, will go to anywhere. Like, they'll do whatever the hell they want, because in America, it's American as American pie, so to speak. Like, it's one of those things where it's a staple, where wherever it could go, wherever, and people are going to watch. Same thing with wrestling. Wrestling fans they're going to watch, but at the same time, you can't change something that's a staple. To me, you just can't. It's to me like you just can't do it, because I think what'll happen is the NFL, for example, or other sports will take away from it. I feel like, because people are accustomed to it. Even if you don't have a streaming service where you're old school and you still go to your local cable provider and still pay your bill and you go in and hand the bill. Like, people are still doing that. So why change things that are already a staple? I just can't.
Well, they've changed a lot of things that are a staple. So I just, like I'm saying, I don't think that would ever be a reason, because it's a staple. I would think they would have to come up with legitimate reasons why they would stay on Monday nights if they do.
Yeah, if they were losing money, then they would probably change it. But I don't think.
Here's some things in which I think could keep Monday Night Raw on Monday nights, right? Obviously, I talked about if they move away from Monday nights, NFL could eventually show up wherever they are and move them again, right? Another thing is, too, I don't think there would ever be a war because I can promise you, say it right now, if WWE moves off of Monday nights and puts themselves on Wednesdays, right, and even if they move themselves to Tuesdays, right, if the Monday night time slot opens up, AEW is moving to Monday nights. Just letting you know that right now. They're moving to Monday nights when that time slot gets open. I mean, we already saw with the Collision logo, right? When they got a chance to have the pseudo Nitro looking logo for their Collision logo, they jumped on it, right? So AEW knows. Tony Khan's a wrestling fan. He knows what we're talking about. He loves Monday nights, right? He loved the Monday Night Wars. So if he gets a chance to be on Monday nights, he's taking it. For sure, absolutely. Yeah. He's going to take it, right? I mean, so he's moving to Monday nights if this happens. And second off, this would throw off the whole schedule for WWE. And what I mean by schedule, I don't mean the TV schedule necessarily, but their touring schedule, right? We're used to them obviously running house shows in the past, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday Night Raw was Monday, and then SmackDown was always on Tuesdays or taped on Tuesdays, whether it was live or it was taped because of that schedule, right? Eventually, Friday Night SmackDown became live, and then they changed the schedule to start the week on Fridays, and then they go to Mondays, right? So either way, they're keeping the house shows and the TV shows together, so they fly to a city, and then they drive to the next, right? If we have Raw on Wednesdays, SmackDown's on Fridays, I mean, you're going to actually have to have talent and the production crew come to something on a Wednesday. And then, because I don't think we're going to have Thursday night house shows, right? So it's going to just change the whole schedule where they're going to fly out for Thursday and then fly home on Thursday afternoon after Wednesday Night Raw and then fly back out on the road for the weekend to do house shows. I mean, plus also with, the go-home shows before pay-per-views, because the whole idea is after Monday Night Raw, you then have the time off until the pay-per-view or until the following weekend, right? Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be booked in the middle of the week. So again, like I said, Seth Rollins is on Wednesday Night Raw. Then he has to do something gets to go home on Thursday. But before he gets home, he's got to hop on a plane and head back out for the weekend.
Logistically, it'd be a nightmare. I mean, like all these folks, like especially like a Cody Rhodes and obviously like a LA Knight, like doing the NXT stuff this week, knowing what the schedule in WWE normally is, they sacrifice the day off to do these things. You know that because they're probably not working on Tuesday nights typically, because if they're working Monday Night Raw, they're probably going home to their families or just going home and taking a day off, like Tuesday. Usually Tuesdays and Wednesdays, if you're a Monday Night Raw or a Friday Night SmackDown, you usually have the middle of the week off. So these folks did that. So like to that point, if you shift those shows around, it's really going to make it a logistical nightmare for people.
Yeah, and obviously the production trucks that actually don't necessarily fly but drive from city to city.
Yeah.
And that's why SmackDown, when it was on Thursdays, wasn't live back in the day, because you're not going to drive the production truck, then have it sit for 2 days, then set up a show, then have it sit for 2 days. You're going to have it do a bunch of stuff. And frankly, I don't know what they do now, because obviously they have the production for Fridays and the productions for Mondays. I know there's no real production for the house shows in the middle of the week.
Well,
so I don't necessarily know
what they do. I don't know the inside baseball of that part of it, but my guess is they probably have a Raw TV team and they probably have a SmackDown TV team. Like, I know enough being in the business, on that side of it, where like even locally, like I know people that work, like they'll work random Syracuse games because ESPN has the rights to the show or ACC Network has the rights to the show. So they have different local crews that help. But for WWE, they probably contract, which they do for like stand-ins and stuff, local people. Like I remember when we went to the Buffalo show for Raw, like there was a guy who was a local, he was an independent wrestler that was essentially like he did some stuff for WWE. He was contracted because WWE was in town. But generally speaking, I think they have Raw TV crew trucks and they have SmackDown. So logistically speaking, and then when they have the super shows, they all come together like a pay-per-view. Or if it's like the big pay-per-views, they bring everybody.
I do think though they must work. I do think though a lot of them work together, because that is kind of why the shows stay together, right? That is why they stay together. That's why, like SmackDown, house show Raw, or house show Raw, SmackDown. They're always succinct. They're kind of together. There's no like Raw break, SmackDown break, house show. You know what I mean? Days off are together. Overlap,
but I wouldn't be surprised if there's people that work strictly Raw shows and strictly SmackDown shows. I agree. There's definitely going to be some overlap. There's no argument there. But I do think like I would like guys that drive not the people in the TV truck, but the people who actually drive the rigs, the 18 wheelers. They probably get assigned to a certain brand because they may have to drive very far, in a short time. So they probably have certain crew members that work one particular versus another. Again, I don't work for WWE, so I don't know the logistics, but it makes sense to me where an 18-wheeler driver, a truck driver, drives for Raw and then drives for SmackDown. That's what I would guess.
I mean, either way, I'll just end it on this, that I would like it to stay on Monday Night Raw, or stay
Yes.
Monday Night Raw, indeed. I'd like to stay it on Monday nights, and part of that thing is we talk about the NFL being competition for WWE, which it clearly is, but as for the competition, well, NFL is very strong competition. After that, I mean, everything is kind of unknown. Obviously, there's wrestling on all the other nights of the week, but there's a lot of unknown other competition out there that WWE would encounter for the first time ever, right? Like NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, maybe, better television shows on later in the week. I know wrestling probably wouldn't suffer. It'd probably have a similar crowd. And a similar audience. This is probably very overblown, and people would probably follow it wherever it went. I don't necessarily think, though, it would be such a grand venture to move to Wednesday nights. It would be such a benefit that it'd be worth it, I guess, my way to put it. Like, especially when the NFL isn't going on, I don't think Mondays versus Wednesdays would probably have any difference at all. In that sense, it would only maybe have a marginal difference when the NFL is going on. And again, too, like, we're not even thinking about what differences it could have, in other months, right? And other sports seasons. While they won't be the NFL, they could be something. And I don't necessarily think this is all worth it because historically, not counting football, Monday is like the dead night, right? That is why football found itself on Monday nights. Monday is a dead night, probably the most dead night of all the weeks. And that is why Raw probably found itself on Mondays to begin with, right? So it's a good night for TV, one of the best nights for TV. I personally like going out and going to things, and it's one of those nights where I don't have a lot going on because of the nature of the day that it is. So I just think, kind of risking it. I risk and reward. You got to weigh those things, and I'm not looking at the reward of a Wednesday night being so grand that or the potential of. I think when we noticed, right, Monday Night Raw existed during the Attitude Era. During Monday Night Football being around then, and when Monday Night Football was on not cable television when we were growing up versus being Raw being on cable television, and Raw was beating it in the ratings. So the idea is better product, better show. They weren't talking about moving it back in 1998, right? So I mean, could you imagine if Raw was not on Mondays then when they got the ratings they did and they were still going against the NFL? So what could they have done on Wednesdays? Who knows, but they didn't move it then. So I think the idea is here, whatever is best for the product. And obviously whoever has the broadcast rights is going to be able to be the one to make the final decision. But if you were to ask me, if anybody moves any shows, if I was the dictator of all of this, it'd probably be moving SmackDown off of Friday nights because that's a bad night for television. And Collision obviously is showing that Saturday nights is a bad night for television.
I'd say go back to Thursday nights on SmackDown because like if you want,
they can't go to Thursday nights if what we've been talking about is true because of the middle of the week thing. They'd have to go back to taping it on Tuesdays. And that's not going to work. We can't go back.
I don't see, for me, like if I'm going to shift it a little bit, like I do like it the way it is, to be honest with you. I think Friday nights are fine. But if I were to shift anything, it would be SmackDown to Thursdays because I'd make it one day difference, which, the loop's a little bit longer. But to me, like when are you
going to tape it? Is it going to be live on Thursdays?
I would do it live on Thursdays because I was mentioning the split. I was mentioning a lot of the crews are probably going to be split, I would think anyways. I think WWE has enough of a production budget where they can split crews up and it's fine. And it also gives the Monday Night Raw and the SmackDown folks, they would typically have like a Tuesday, Wednesday off, and then they just have to get to where they are Thursday or on Monday, for example. That's just me. I don't know. I mean, I like Fridays.
I think if they moved to Thursdays, that would make the SmackDown crew Thursday night SmackDown, Friday night house show, Saturday night house show, Sunday night house show, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. And then the Monday Night Raw crew would be Saturday, Sunday house show, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday house show Monday. So either way, they'd all be working 4 nights with 3 days off. But they got to bookend it somehow, some way there. I mean, SmackDown would be the one show that I would think about moving over Monday Night Raw. But only time will tell because the broadcast rights are not being sold as we speak. But they will be being sold probably sometime in the near future. We will see if they stay on the USA Network, who buys them, and what the future of Monday Night Raw holds.